Namaste.
Namaste. Arunadi, I asked about the software. So I could do it aajkal. So they were saying on PowerPoint, there is a tools, it seems. There's a pen tools on PowerPoint, which is one way of doing it. The script itself, I will get the software and I'll share it with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sorry for the delay, but just like
No problem. My classes have started. So I'm just trying to make it a little more interesting, all the slides and all. Yeah.
Namaste.
For 18 to 20-year-olds.
Namaste, Chandanadi.
Namaste, Anuradhaji. Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Namaste, Ramesh.
Namaste.
Kushalam
What is
Kinasti.
the difference between Namaste and Namo Namaha?
So Namaste is like a direct salutations. I salute you. Namo Namaha is just saying that salutations. So Namaha becomes Namo Namaha due to the Sandhi rules. That's it.
Kushalam Kinasti.
Kushalam amam sarvam kushalam. Dhanyavadaha. Bhavataha sarvam kushalam.
Aham sarvam kushalam yatha adya sanskritasya kakshyam asti.
Oh, uttama. Mahan santoshaha.
Amam.
So Vijayji is there. I'll just do a quick round of everybody. Kaha asti, ka asti. So are you, maybe just before we start, and I'll just love to hear your feedback on whether you're being able to do the lessons. How was it working for you? Akhila ji just disappeared. Vijayji. Are you being able to find the time to do that? Like, will you be able to go on to the next one?
Ma'am, till yesterday I completed 5. Today I could only do 1, that is the 6th. But I'm sincerely doing and understanding whatever I am listening.
Uttamam. So that's why I'll give you a few more clues in terms of how you can continue to move on to the intermediate course. So I'll share some of those tips, like, just so that like how much of what is there in the basic you really need to know to do the intermediate is something I'll let you know, because I'm giving various rules in which these cases are applied. So do you really need to remember all those rules, or it's just good to have a samskara of those rules? And then when you are doing the practice, you will start recognizing and becoming familiar with those rules. Hi Sundar. Susayam, Bahu Dhanyavadaha.
No problem.
So we've got Deepak ji, Jashi ji. Namaste. Usha, Uttamam. Namaste, Shridash ji.
Namaste. Good morning.
Good morning. Zuli.
Hi. That's right, Suri. I have a question for you. I'm new. Yes, I'm new in the group. I've been a little bit around Sanskrit, but I don't have the script. So for me to have a certificate, my concern is, what type of test do I get? What's the challenge that I have to face?
All right. So the thing is that for this, what we are doing right now here, there is no certification. All right. But if you are going to enroll, just for what we are doing, because it is more of an informal learning that we have initiated this time. I mean, I've called it 10 hours course, but the whole objective of this is to prepare you to apply for the proper course, which is coming up in 2 weeks on the 14th of September. And for that particular course, I will be in that course. The first few lessons are on teaching you the script.
Very good.
Yes. But I would highly encourage you to start learning the script from now itself. So all of you who don't know the script, please start looking at the alphabet. I will also share that online. Okay, I will share the Devanagari script. But if you look at this, and I'll also share with you other sites where I'm teaching the script. I mean, there are just so many. I'm not the only one. Sundar also was saying that Learn Sanskrit is another good place to also familiarize yourself with the script. So,
Yes.
Sundar, if you could also share that Badme on the group again, that would be uttamam.
Sure, I will.
Okay. So what?
I really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
because even if you just learn one or two, you know, the letters, especially the vowels, are all
Yes.
they're in couples. So if you learn one, you know the next one. Then there's a certain logic, or there are certain
Right.
clues that can help you associate different letters.
Please.
So
Yeah, that is a handicap. If you don't have the script, you don't go anywhere. And that's how I see it. I mean, Roman letters, it's okay, but you have all the literature comes in this Devanagari. So it's a must. You have to have the script.
More than that, I mean, there are just so many other benefits of knowing it just because of other than the fact that the sounds are so precise, just the writing of it, there is a certain benefit that one experiences. I mean, it's quite remarkable,
Right.
side effects that the study of Sanskrit and sounds and scripts offers.
So do we have also like a limit of people for the second level?
No.
Because I know bits and bits.
No.
Oh, okay.
Open. That's completely open. So if you would remind me, what I'll do is I'll also share, like I said, I have this, I'm also on, I'm teaching on another site called Yoga Anytime. That is before I joined IIT, I had already started teaching them. And there are also, you know, you'll have access to other yoga content. So I can give you, I can give you some codes, because it's a subscribed, website. So if you have the code, you will have a little more access to it. But and within that, you can, you know, learn up already in a month or so. And then you can, if you don't plan to continue the subscription, then you can remove your card details. Those are certain.
No, I want something very formal. This is a long-term mission. It's a mission for me now. I'm in America, and here I don't have that much resources, like a teacher next to me, or even someone in Hindi that could teach me, you know, walk me, right, with my hand, with the script. So that is why I kind of appreciate.
Yeah, 2-3 resources that you could benefit from.
I appreciate it.
You know, there was that very beautiful shloka which was put up by, I think, Milan, that Sadau Dhang, that Chichauja. Yeah, can you do the Sandeep Vichhed and give us the word for word? Maybe sometime.
Yeah. Down the line we'll do it. Or what I'll do is I'll request Deepak ji or Shantanu ji, and all of them are big. They're also experts in that. So I can request them to also do it, because I think it's great to benefit from each other's knowledge as well. I mean, for them it'll be an exercise, and I can review it to make sure that it's correct with my knowledge also. Because some of these things can get quite complex if you don't know the words, especially those who play with these words, no? These kind of chitra kavyas, those who do those, what do you say, those stunts with the language.
Yeah, no, to did he that done.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's an amazing construction. So I was very keen to know them.
My favorite Sanskrit shloka is ya 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 ya, and it means a whole lot of things. It means I salute the Paduka. No, I'll show you some of those. Wait, let me just see. I can pick it off the net only now. I'm sure it's there. So what I would recommend all of you to do, and we'll start in a minute, is there is an excellent book that is a must possess for all of us who love Sanskrit. It's by Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. It's called The Wonder That Is Sanskrit. It's a very, very good collection. I mean, it's a very good compilation of different unique features of Sanskrit. So The Wonder That Is Sanskrit. And it actually used to come with a CD-ROM earlier on, where you could, you know, play this and hear it. And
by whom is it?
Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. He's one of the very good scholars, and he's got a lot of work happening. He is also, he has the radio, a 24-hour radio on Sanskrit called Divyavani. Besides that, there's another one which is called the Vande Mataram Library Trust. It's an app that they have as well as a website. And this one has the entire Gita, you know, a lot of the Upanishads are there with meaning, with chanting, with the commentary of Sri Aurobindo, because he's from the Sri Aurobindo Foundation of Indian Culture. So it is based on Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, Sri Aurobindo's commentaries on all these texts.
Okay. Now, what is the name of the channel, Radha?
Vande, Divyavani is the audio. Divyavani.
Divyavani. Okay.
That's the radio.
And Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram Library Trust. What I will do is I will request him to share all of this again with me, and I will put that on the group. So
yeah, that will be nice.
From there, also download it. These are all very, very valuable resources. You know, so what I also do, I just play the Upanishads. So if you don't have the time to sit and read them and do all of that in the midst, but at least you're listening to them, you get exposure to the content of these texts.
Correct.
And you might even find la 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 la.
Yeah. No, but that's what's so we'll start formally. I'm getting Rihanna lyrics. I'll show this to you. I'm not finding my book. I'm Darshayami.
One is good enough.
So let's start. Huh? So I mute everybody. Okay. So Sundar, I've put it on speaker view. Okay. Astu. So let's start because it's already time, and we'll let the others join as they come in. So let's start with the chanting of the Om 3 times, and then we'll move on to Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om, and then Atha. So as you close your eyes, what I'd just like you to do is for the first one and for the ones that we do before the Oms, as you close your eyes, as you inhale, do the Om and then the Om aloud. Inhale Om, Om aloud, inhale Om, Om aloud, and Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So let's start. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om, Atha. So last time, in yesterday's class, we did a little bit of a revision and we also added a few new things. So I'll quickly mention those so that those who were not there yesterday don't miss out on anything. So very quickly, the recap was that the Om itself is like the most neutral sound that helps make all the other sounds of the universe vibrate. And because it's the center, you pluck it in the center. And therefore it creates, when we chant the Om, it creates a kind of a resonance within the system, an entrainment, and everything in our being starts vibrating with that in a neutral manner. And that's why the Om is said to be like what I call the reset button that helps us reduce a lot of our noise in the system and follow along with, I would say, a simple sound. So in terms of vibrations, the whole objective, sorry, my phone is ringing, 1 second. Kshamyatam, phone went off. So as I was saying, that the sound Om acts as the reset button for our system. The goal from a vibratory point of view is that how do we simplify the vibrations of our being? Because with the simpler vibrations, or rather the uncluttered vibrations, there will be, and I will introduce you a little bit to the Yoga Sutra here. So the Yoga Sutra, the first sutra of the Yoga Sutra is Atha Yoga Anushasanam. If you put that together, it becomes Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Okay, I will put it also on the chat here, and I'll do it in the Roman script. So Atha Yoga. Let me do it on the. I'll just put it up on the whiteboard. So the first verses of the Yoga Sutra, and we'll just do these few because that is where the goal of yogas is, and therefore also what Sanskrit is helping us achieve in its own way. So Yoga Sutra. So the first sutra is Atha Yoga Anushasanam, which is yoga plus Anushasanam. And what is Anushasanam? Anushasanam means the instruction. So henceforth the teaching of the yoga begins. And this is very typical of a certain feature of the Sanskrit texts, where they will talk to you about, what is the objective of the book. So that is, what is the prayojana of the book. So this one tells you directly we are going to do the Yoganushasanam. And then this next sutra is the next one is, what is yoga? Yogaha Chitta. I'll first probably write it with the thing. Yogash Chitta. I'm trying to also show you where the word breaks. Okay, so vritti, I don't have the R with the dot below. Vritti nirodhaha. So I'll just show you where the word breaks. So yogaha. So yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. What does that mean? So if I had to do that picture of mine, my favorite one, where you are either, we are in these more smooth vibratory patterns, or we are in much noisier patterns. So if we are in this noisy pattern, so yoga is chitta vritti. Vritti comes from the root vrit. Vrit has two meanings. One is, it comes from the root vr. Further, if you break it down, vr means to cover. And vrit has a sense of a circular movement. So the patterns of the mind are those that cover. So what are they covering? In a sense, they're covering our connection with our deeper self. So it's the noise. So yoga chitta vritti. Chit is in Vedanta. Chitta is just one of the 4 functions of the mind. So the mind has the antahkarana. So there are 4 functions, namely. So you have manaha, manaha, buddhi, chitta and ahankara. Mano, buddhi, chitta and ahankara. These are the 4 antahkarana, the internal instruments of the mind. And what are those internal instruments? So manaha is your emoting and thinking faculty. Buddhi is the discretionary faculty in the head. Chitta is the memory component in our being, and ahankara is the I principle. So they, in a sense, zoom into the mental apparatus, and they divide it into these 4 functionings. In the Yoga Shastra, they bring it all under the category of chitta. Okay, and chitta comes from the root chit. Chit means consciousness. Okay, so chitta is those aspects of consciousness within us. And here it is referring to the mind, which comprises of all these functions. So chitta vritti. Now the thing is, that's where the challenge comes with the translations. Because the moment you have a translation, you are translating vritti as perturbations, movements, the ripples. There are various kinds of translations that are given for the term vritti. But the beauty again of knowing the original language is that you can access the psychology, a deeper level of what is being indicated. So when you say vritti, it's not just about the fact that it is the mental movements. Okay, there are movements and patterns, but those patterns are of a certain nature. What is that nature? There is a circularity about them. And circularity of our repeated ways of samskaras that we have, karmas that we do, which are often not out of the box because we are creatures of habits. And once a certain pathway forms in our brain, we will tend to do that because we are hardwired for survival. And that hardwiring needs encrusted, or rather it needs a certain regularity in its behavior, which is safe. Okay, so it's quite fascinating. But so chitta vritti, so one is that it is these patterns, these circular patterns, and vr also from the covering of our own being. Chitta vritti nirodha. So nirodha is translated as stoppage, cessation, but it comes from rud. Rud means a containing, a holding. Okay, so there are 2 ways that this can be achieved. And the other day, as Jashaji had asked me that, the movement is not this satya is not a static satya. The satya is in manifestation, because the world is of manifestation, and it is in manifestation that we have to discover the underlying Brahmanness. So, which means that we are in the realm of sound. In sound, when do we get peace? In movement, when can you find peace? So we know that if there is a vibration. So in another way, if there's a train moving, when will you feel that the train is static? When you are also going at the same pace as that. So in movement, when we are aligning with the movement, then you experience the absolute, then you experience the vast. Okay. So chitta vritti nirodha is the cessation or the stoppage or the holding of this unwanted noisy patterns. And what was that all about? So last time in yesterday's class, we had discussed it in a little more detail, and I'll take you through that once again, is that the unconditioned Brahma Tattva, or that free expansive existence, it is, all right, and it is also, when it is in manifestation, it has a certain truth, dynamic truth, which is known as rhythm. The right is nothing but dynamic truth in action, is how Sri Aurobindo translates rhythm. But normally what happens at this point, instead of being here, we are sometimes here. At this point, instead of being here, we are somewhere here. At this point, instead of being here, we are somewhere here. So the graph that we draw is generally like that. So the moment you do that, we see that we are in anritam. We have moved away. And yesterday I had mentioned that this moving away from the highway is when we are, first of all, when we don't have access to the blueprint. Why don't we have access? Because there's just so much of noise in the system. So when that noise can be calmed down, then what happens? Then the Yoga Sutra tells us what happens when yoga. So yoga is being able to stop all this noise and therefore experiencing a certain alignment of the being. That alignment also allows a union to form of all the different levels of manifestation, because it's the same vibration that is manifesting itself at all times, at all levels. So at any time, through any level, potentially one can get back to the source. Okay. And so there is an alignment, there is a union, and there is, by that process, also kind of a dissolution of the constructed self. So yoga has these three connotations, mainly the union and the dissolution. And the third meaning is of alignments. So we see that when this noise stops, then we have the possibility of experiencing this connection. So the first union is the connection of the lower hemisphere that the Vedas talks about with the upper hemisphere. And when that takes place, then, and the second is the dissolution. What is dissolving? This mudhatvam that we talked about yesterday. Mudhatvam is this density of our ignorant being. This gets dissolved and there is more light that is allowed to permeate our structures, all our vibratory structures. Okay. And when that happens, then what happens? So the Yoga Sutra tells us, so the third sutra is tada, then, drashtuhu, swa, wait just a second, I'll try and see if I can move that. I can't move that. Okay, so I'll write it where I have a little more space. Okay, let me try writing it there itself. Sorry, I'll just undo that. Okay, so I'll write it here. It's nice and clear. So, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam, but it becomes like that. Vasthanam. And this is equal to swarupe plus avasthanam. Okay. So what is it saying? Then, as a result of that, then drashtuhu, the seer self that is here, the seer self is able to, that's the witness consciousness, drashtu swarupe, it finds its own true form. Avasthanam, stha means to stand, to stay, to stabilize, station. All those words in English have the same root, stha. Okay, avasthanam is to establish in it. So when the chitta vritti is stopped, then the reflection of the drashta is in the being, and it is as if the being is established in the self, in its own place, in its own form. And then what happens? You have the next one. If one doesn't do that, then what happens? Tada drashtuhu swarupe. Drashtu Swarupe. Just one second. Tada Drashtuhu.
Anuradha, please repeat the third one.
Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam.
And the meaning, please.
Ha, tada, then the drashta is established in the self, which means that the reflection on the being is happening as much as possible. So I think what I'll do is, for now, I will stop this here itself. I'll not go on to the next one, because I'll tell you what happens if you don't do it in the next class. All right. But for here, this much is enough. And therefore, when the attempt was, how do we disentangle this noise? One of the ways of doing it is by producing the right sounds. So when there is distortion of sounds, the more the sounds that we produce are distorted from the original, we are generating sound, we are generating noise. So in this particular attempt of Sanskrit, when we are talking of the origin of sounds as the Om, and then it fragments itself into the three main primary vowels of the Sanskrit alphabet, which are the A, the E, and the U, and then further refined into R and L. So these are the 5 primary vowels of the Sanskrit alphabet. And then there are combinations of these alphabet which form the diphthongs, like the A, the I, the O, the Au, followed by the Anuswara and the Visarga. So and Aha. And each of the primary vowels also has its length. So it has its short and its long. And as I mentioned yesterday, there is short, there is long, and there is triple the length. The second thing is that there is a nasalized and a non-nasalized form. The third aspect is that you can do it at the 3 intonations. So Anudatta, Udatta, and Swarita. So you can do it at these 3 intonations. Each of these helps us to discover another dimension of that particular sound. So if you do you will have a certain experience. If you do you will get another experience. It is sound with the element of music that enters into it, and that opens up a different space. And then you nasalize it, and it will open up another space, yet another space. So these are the primary 16 vowels, which then again fragment themselves into the whole spectrum of the Sanskrit alphabet, which are 33 in number. Okay, 33 and 34 with the ksha. There is one conjunct consonant that is accepted in the letters. Wait, I'll just. Can you see all these other things that I'm doing on the screen, or it's only the whiteboard? What do you see?
Only whiteboard.
All right. Okay. So, okay. So as I was saying, so then it fragments into the other one. So what I'll do next is that we will go into the Sanskrit alphabet, because it's important to start familiarizing yourselves with the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet. Many of you already know them, but for the benefit of everybody, I will put it up for you. Yeah, and also the PowerPoint. So I'll put up both for you, one after the other. Okay, so I'll start sharing the screen now. So as you can see here, the Sanskrit alphabet has been assigned different places of pronunciation. So when we say the alphabet of any other language like A, B, C, D, it comes from the alpha, beta, gamma of the Greek alphabet. but there is no logic behind why alpha comes first and then beta, etc. There's no real phonetic logic, at least, behind it. But in the Sanskrit language, the entire alphabetic system is arranged in a very, very systematic manner. So we had the three places of pronunciation, the main three. So if you have the vocal system, you have the A, the E, which is from the palate or the talu, and the U at the with the labials. Okay, so you have that range. And then you have subdivided it here into R and the teeth L. So this range is again subdivided there. Okay, between the talu and the labials, you have it again divided pretty much equally into the next few zones of the human vocal system. And so we have A, E, U, because those are the primary colors. So if I have to do it on my fingers, and I request all of you to join along, we'll discover that and then move on. So A, E. I'd like everyone to do it with the fingers, because when you do this, it's also a way of teaching others. If you want to teach them, there's a logic that becomes easily understandable. A, E, U, R, and then you have A and E, the sound that comes in between A, E. So A is in the middle. A, I, A and U, you get O, Ow, and then we have the consonants. So what are the consonants? With the vowels, there's no element of touch of the tongue. With the consonants, there is a conscious element of touch that enters. So we have the first 5 sounds in the throat, which are K and K. So touch sound K, K, G, sound touch, G, breath, nasal, Ng. Let's do that. K, K, G, G, Ng. We move on to the palatals. Ch, Ch, J, J, Nya. Cerebrals. T, Th, D, Dh, N. Dentals. T, Th, D, Dh, N. Labials. P, P, B, Bh, M. And then we see that we've gone systematically as the sound comes out of the human vocal system. We reverse the order. Y. So A to E was A. E to A is Y. R, L, V. And then the 3 sh sounds. Sh, talavya, sh, murdha, dantya, s. How does it help to know whether, which is the place of pronunciation? So you have certain sounds that are repeated in a sense. So the nasal sound is repeated 5 times, but they're not identical. So when you're representing it in Hindi, you will very typically put an anuswara and represent them all. But in Sanskrit, when you need to use a nasal, you have to be precise. So with Sanskrit, it is called Samyak Kritam because precision is the name of the game for this language. Every single aspect of this language is thought out. So there's a very conscious articulation of everything. So when we have, like say, if I tell you the word Ankani, so repeat the sound Ankani and tell me where the ng is from, where the nasal sound is from. Where will the nasal come from in Ankani? Where is it from?
Guttural.
Guttural. Why guttural? Because, so the logic is this. How do you know if you're writing in Hindi and then you're writing in Sanskrit? You can't put the dot everywhere. For the groups which are assigned to these 5 groups, you have to look at the next letter. So if you have Ankani, then it will have to be a ng of that group. Ankani. So Chanchu will be cha cha ja ja nya. Dandaha will be ta ta da na. Exactly. Danta
na.
Then dental. Okay, you know where. So dental is actually not very consistent. Sanskrit has a danta. Because ta comes, so it will have to be a na, dantya. And amba have to be a ma. Ma. Where else does this come handy? So when you have another three sounds, the sibilants, which are similar. So you have ashta. Which one will you put? The murdha. Why? Because it is followed by a sh. Ashta. Ashcharya. Which one will you put?
Sure.
Sh. Because of the cha that follows. And astu will be a so. Understand? Okay. Now, when do you have the dot? And this is an important word that we would have to have clarity on. I get questions on that every now and then. So it is the, when do you use the anuswara? So you have Sanskrit, you have the dot for Samskritam. So ya, ra, la, va, sha, sa have the dot that preceded. So it becomes the anuswara before these letters. But then the question is that how do you pronounce it? So the word Sanskrit itself is a classic example of a strange ambiguity. After putting so much of emphasis on the precision of the sound and all that, the word Sanskrit itself is pronounced in quite a few ways. So in the south, they will say Samskritam. In Maharashtra and all, they will say Sanskritam. And they claim monopoly on the correctness of the anuswara. Okay, because it is not in any of the specific places of pronunciation designated ones. In the north, they will say Sanskrit. I tend to go with the Sanskritam because I just follow the same logic that if there is a sa that follows, then the nasal will have to belong to that group. And in Vedic chanting also, they have a similar rule. If there is an anuswara followed by another, the letter that will follow it, except for the antasthas, and if you have the va and all, it will become va. You know, it takes on, or sometimes you have the gum sound. So those are specifications of the Vedic chanting. But generally, like I said, there are regional connotations to the Sanskritam or Sanskritam, but I prefer going with the Sanskritam. The other word that comes up very often, and Milanji also asked me, is Brahma. So in grammar texts, they acknowledge the possibility of pronouncing the ha after the ma. And that is how traditionalists do it. So they would say Brahma. So a grammarian is not the constructor of rules. A grammarian is one who observes what is there in society, the way it is used, and then he documents it and records it and tries to find reason and logic in it. So I'm sure when Panini and the other grammarians looked at the way it was being pronounced, so Brahma was an acknowledged way of pronouncing it traditionally, and therefore Brahma is a legitimate pronunciation for it. Having said that, I would again go with the logic of the order of the letters that are written. So if it is written Brahma, I would prefer pronouncing it as Brahma, because the effect, I always go back to the effect of the sound. So if you say Brahma versus Brahma, there's a very different psychological effect that is being created. And if the word Brahma comes from the root Brah, then I leave it for you to experiment with it to find out which one creates more space, which one is more opening than, which is one that is probably more, you just experiment with it and see what you get. Okay. So this is the different arrangement of the letters. And then we have the three conjunct consonants. And I've given you about the logic. Another place is when do you use the dot and when do you use the ma, but that will come when it's written. So I'm not getting into that now. But it is important for us to just know this much, that when we are doing this, we also have the three conjunct consonants, which are ksha, so which is a pronunciation of ka plus the murdha sound. So ksha, so Lakshmi. And then you have tra, not tra, so mantra. The English speaking world will say mantra, but mantra is not a Sanskrit word. Not like Shanti is not a Sanskrit word. I mean, one can say that, it is after all Shanti, but it is not Shanti, because if you do Shanti and you do Shanti, you get completely different experiences. So with Sanskrit, there is this rhythm quality. Okay. There's somebody who's put on their sound, kindly mute. All right. So there is this, the Shanti like I was saying, that there is a precision of the sound that is important. And so those were with the ksha, tra, and then j and nya. So that's another typical sound that tends to get distorted very easily. So people tend to do gya, gyana, for example. So there is, the sound itself is a combination of j and nya. So it is either a nya or a jya. So both of these are close. I have not yet hit upon the exact one. So it's either a jnya or a jya. So that is, so I would say yajna, not yagya, because the gya doesn't do justice to the original sound combination there. Okay. So now the important thing is that when we have done this, what is the advantage of having done that? Like we discussed the other day, if you spoke only English or you spoke only French and the Latino languages, then this part between the talavya and the dental is seldom, I mean, would never be physiologically stimulated, which means that those parts in the brain are not stimulated, which means that those parts in your body are not stimulated. So recitation of Sanskrit alphabet, especially the murdha sounds, are very, very important, because the murdha in Qigong, a Chinese medicine, they talk of two energy meridians that intersect at that point. So they use it for meditation. Very often they tell you to put your tongue on top there for meditation. So when you're doing Ashta, or like I joke and I tell my friends, I say, if you pronounce Ashtanga Yoga, you don't really need to do it also. Because at a subtle level, you would have started moving certain energies within the system. So connecting these sounds to the chakras, you have the 16 vowels which are around the Vishuddha, the petals, around the throat, the 16 petals. The next 12 are in the Anahata, or the heart center. The next 10 are in the Manipura center. The next 6 are in the Swadhisthana. The next 4 are in the Mooladhara. And the last 2 are in the Ajna. So you're literally doing a screwing down, a spiraling down with sound and an awakening in the Ajna chakra. Okay. So multiple benefits again. And therefore, when you say Hare Krishna or Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, this is a Maha Mantra. And I told you that I will explain why it is a Maha Mantra beyond the fact that it is associated to forms. Why is it so? Because when you do Hare, ha, just like the Visarga, is another huge de-stressor and opener of the heart. Okay, and it also opens up the hum, is the Mula Bija Mantra of the throat. So the heart, the throat, all of these start opening up when you do the ha. Hare. Ra is in your Swadhisthana, is in your Manipura. Okay, and why is the Manipura special from a yogic perspective? The Manipura is special because that is connected to our umbilical cord, in a sense, when we were born. So that is where the birth memories and all are also stored somewhere. And creation, our original creation, happens in that region as well. So the Manipura chakra is very important from that point of view. And that's why Rama is actually also stimulating that particular chakra. And Hare Krishna. Why? Because with Ra, it's not just the Manipura chakra, but it is also the Murdhanya point, which is getting stimulated, and the energy. So Krishna. So if you do Krishna, you are not really benefiting from the merit of this particular mantra. So to benefit phonologically and to benefit vibrationally, energetically from this mantra, it becomes very important to do Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You see, there's so much of the ra, and that's when all the bija mantras also, you have the hram, hrim, hroom. You have a lot of the ras, because it activates these centers, these two main centers, the central one there, and also the Manipura chakras. And in the process, the entire chakra system starts getting activated. So amazing things. And
could you please explain the Krishna part again?
So kr, you see, the k is a throat, all right? So the throat chakras are very important also because the Vishuddha chakra is connected to our expression. And that's why all the matrikas, all the vowels are there. They are the unfettered expression of our being, the matrikas. So kr is the first one that you can also do from the throat in terms of the consonant. And r is a vowel that is connected to the murdha. So Hare Krish is the murdha sound again, murdhanya sh, and it is also ushmana. It starts generating heat in the system. So better heat, I would imagine. Okay, there is some amount of conjecturing that I'm doing here because these need to be corroborated with research. But if I have to just think of it in terms of the points of touch, what they are doing, then I can, and energetically what it might be doing, then these are points that we could assume are reasons why they're benefiting us. Okay, so Hare Krishna, again, na is also murdha sound. So you see that there's a lot of stimulation of that point, which is it's like a maha point for the meditation as well, because I think it is also connected to the bindu point that is behind. So there are many connections, there are many yogic connections that are associated with that particular point. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So it's very important to get that, the rounding of the tongue to get it. So the Sunad people know I keep doing this for the sh, and it is to be physiologically experienced. So I'll just share some first-hand experiences I had with the benefits of speaking Sanskrit. So I was in a camp where I was immersed. I had, various camps where I had 1 month of complete immersion of Sanskrit speaking, hearing, etc. I then went to another camp where there was English, that was a language, spoken language. And when I had to shift from Sanskrit to English, it was as if English was coming out from the tip of my tongue. And this is not to denigrate the language in any way, but it was just to probably highlight the fact that the languages we speak are having a physiological impact on our being, a neurological impact, a physiological impact. There is breath that is incorporated to one of the most precise degrees in the Sanskrit language. Every single breath that we take when you speak in Sanskrit has to be accounted for. Astu. And therefore, the natural pranayama that comes forth as a result of that. And so that was that. And there was another friend from Malta also who, spoke different languages. And she said that when I speak Sanskrit, it's as if my whole being is participating in it. Another benefit that we have when speaking Sanskrit, or when we are reciting the alphabet in particular, is that it helps to improve concentration enormously. Try saying the Sanskrit alphabet and thinking of different things. Even if you've said it 100 times, you're likely to make a mistake. So just the recitation of the Sanskrit alphabet seems to hold our concentration in a very precise manner. Astu. So that is the multiple benefits of doing just the Sanskrit alphabet. And what we'll do probably is just recite the alphabet. So today I'm going to be stopping with the alphabet, and we'll use the next 10 minutes just to highlight the main points of the lessons that we've seen. And next time I will start talking to you about the structures of the language, which you are encountering now as you proceed with the different vibhaktis, etc. Astu. So we'll do that. But for now, I'd like us to just allow ourselves to really try and feel the impact of these sounds as we do it. So let's do it like a meditation practice. So I suggest that you sit straight with your spine erect, close your eyes, and you repeat after me. So when these letters are being done as a mantra, then you add the anuswara after them. Why the anuswara? Because the has a thing of establishment. So it's literally like if your being is this ocean or a placid lake, you're adding these water droplets and dum, 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 Allow the weight of the sound to fall in your being. So when you're doing im, so allow those sounds to really resonate in you as much as possible. So close your eyes and I'll make you do it. Im, repeat after me. I'll start again. So just repeat after me. Im, rim, Aim, Om, Aum, Ah, Kam, Kham, Gum, Gham, Ngam, Cham, Chum, Jum, Jham, Nyam, Tum, Thum, Dum, Dhum, Num, Tum, Thum, Dum, Dhum, Num, Pum, Phum, Bum, Bhum, Mum, Yum, Rum, Lum, Bum, Shum, Shum, Sum, Hum, Ksham. So we can, like I said, experience this, and there are Buddhist practices that say that if you know how to recite the Sanskrit alphabet, if you just recite the Sanskrit alphabet, it's a way of keeping good health. So it's quite an exercise. So I thought what we'll do is I need to divide my time better when I do this. Is that I'll just take you quickly through the main points that have been taught to you so far, and I'll share my screen again. So one thing that you start recognizing when you're doing Sanskrit grammar especially is that the words are very coded. And it becomes important to start recognizing these codes. I'll give you a small example. I'll stop the share for a second and do a thing. So if you have all right. So if you have, let's say if you have a word which is he, let's do this and then you'll understand what I mean. Okay. So he, what are the different codes in this word? What are the different pieces of information that you get? Masculine. What else? Singular. Anything else? Subject. Right? These are the three things that you will get here. Anything
Second
else?
person.
Third person.
Third person, yeah.
Third person.
Beginning action.
Huh?
He's beginning action. He is. He was.
Yeah. So it's the subject. That is taken in the context of the subject.
Okay.
When we talk of it as a subject, so this is the code that you have here. He, this, subject, and we don't know anything about distance. In Sanskrit, when you say saha, What is the coding that you have there? So just another in terms of pronunciation, we are saying saha, but actually it's sah. The pronunciation should be sah. That's the perfect pronunciation, but we do saha just to emphasize on the ha that follows. Okay. So what is the code that we have? So we have similar information. So we know that this is a masculine. We have masculine. Or rather, yeah, we have masculine. And then
Saha also means together, right?
no, that is saha. That's why I said that we have to be careful about the pronunciation. So when we are sah, the visarga, that one is saha. It's the consonant ha that follows. All right. So here we have singular. So we have singular. And then you have subject. You have third person. And what else do you have here? Location. Huh? Distance. Yeah, you get a distance.
Here.
There is an addition of a distance here. Okay, it's not come out very well. I'll just do it from there. So in he, you don't know it's he that or he this. In Sanskrit, you get just that extra piece of information. Similarly, in our verbs, we have different codings. So this is third person, and you have an extra piece of information there. And therefore, Eshaha is he here. He there and he here. Okay. So this is the distance part. Okay. So if you look at the lesson, so I would say Saha Balakaha. So in English, if I say he boy, okay, you can't first of all do he boy because it doesn't also fit like that. Okay, you will say that. So when I say that, the word that doesn't give you the gender and all of that. It is a neutral word. The that is more of a neutral word and it only tells you about the distance. In Sanskrit, when I say Saha Balakaha, I mean he, that boy. Singular, who's a subject and who's in third person. That is what I'm telling you. Or if I just say Saha Gachati, I have all these pieces of information that are given. If I say Eshaha, why does Eshaha? Because of the A, the sa becomes a sh. Eshaha means here, he here. Okay, so we don't have. So in English, when you say this, then you just get that it is a singular, it is distance, but nothing more than that. Okay, this goes. Okay, you also get a subject component in that, third person component in that. All right, but you don't have the gender that is incorporated. In Sanskrit, both of them are incorporated when you're saying saha or he there. All right, the same goes for the verb, and that is what you're seeing there. And I'll start that. The subject here. So if I say gachati, which is goes, or rather, I think this will not be very different. Let's take the English goes. English is for the goes is okay. Let me take the go. Okay, and I'll change this one also. I'll change this one to gachami. Let's make it gachami. It's simpler to talk about it then. It's time. So let's take gachami. 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 So what is the piece of information you have here? First, that it is first person. First person. Next.
Kriya. That is action.
Yeah, so that's a verb. So that's the first thing, that it's a verb.
Yeah.
So I'll put that in the center. Verb. Okay. Then it's a first person. What else?
Singular.
Singular. Then?
I go. Present tense.
That is I. Present tense. So present tense.
Subject.
Tell me.
Subject.
I go. It's not a subject here. It is the. It corresponds to the third person. In Sanskrit, you have different pieces of information.
Gender.
No, you don't get gender. No, you don't get gender. Gachami is I go. So now what is happening to the English? Let's just look at what happens to the English. So English, what can you say? Who all go? Who all can it be? So it can be first person or
second person.
Second person or
third person.
No, not third person.
No, it becomes going.
Third person plural.
No, go. Plural.
Third person plural.
So you get first person, you get singular and plural. All right. And what else you get? You get present tense. So the tense is the same. Right. So you see that the coding is not as precise. If I just tell you the word go, I will have to substantiate it with more words. If I tell you gachami, I don't need to say those extra words. I can just say gachami and that is enough, a sentence by itself. I don't have to specify who's going, where am I going, how am I don't have to say who is going, how many are going.
But go should be compared with gacha, no?
No, you have to say, put going, not go.
If it is going, it is gachami. If it is go,
going is gachami, not go.
No, it's a good question. So what happens in Sanskrit is the present tense and the present continuous are both indicated by gachami. So in English also, like you say, I go and I am going. You have two different words for that, right? In Sanskrit, gachami indicates I go and I am going. Because when I go, I am also going at the same time. So it would be interesting, and maybe I'll open it up and we'll not answer it just now, but I'll open it up for you to think about what really is different between I go and I am going. So, and does gachami suffice for both of them? In Sanskrit it does, but do you really need to have two different forms for it, or having it in one single form will serve the purpose? Like I know in French, yes.
That I go, there is no I go. It becomes present participle. Isn't it?
No, you say I go, it's not present. You say I go, you go, you're conjugating the verb.
I always go.
No, for just go, there is though it is present, it is it does not there will be no full meaning for that.
No, there is. For example, if I say I go to concerts, I go.
True.
You don't conjugate that.
I go to the park.
I go to the park, so you don't have to conjugate that. That's the root word. And that's the infinite word which can be root word that can be used. And I also have to mention, Professor, that you know what, the go is also can be used as an assertive word. For example, go.
That's the imperative. That's the
imperative. It's imperative form, and that's absolutely.
But now what I'm trying to probably also point out is that if I just said go, there is a lot of ambiguity around what does that go really mean. I mean, if somebody just told you go, what would be the image that is forming in your right brain? Would you have clarity? Because it's very important to understand this relationship between the right brain and the left brain. The left brain is talking in terms of language. So there is a linearity of word sequence, which can take about 140 words in a minute. Okay, that's the speed at which the left brain can process language. The right brain looks in images. So when I say the word go, the image in my right brain is quite a fluid image. It's a very, it's an ambiguous image. Who goes, where goes, like the right brain doesn't really know what to do with that word go, just the word go. But in Sanskrit, the moment I say gachami, there is instant clarity on what am I meaning. So the more there is coding around every word that is used, the more precise it positions an image in your right brain. And the positioning of images in your right brain also corresponds to a clarity of the world that we're looking in. So if you're looking at the world through a Sanskrit lens, you have to look at the world with very clear relationship between things. There are very few free-floating words that are just there because they are there. And in Sanskrit, when you're doing the Vibhakti, as we will look at the Vibhakti in the next class, and in the Vibhakti, you will see that is what you're also encountering. You have looked at the 6th Vibhakti, you have also looked at the 7th Vibhakti. And in the lessons I'm trying to tell you, these are the relationships, these are the different rules when you use the Vibhakti. So the Shashti Vibhakti is when you're talking of the relationship of two things. So, Mama Janakasya or Janakasya Pustakam Asti, father's book. In English it is there, but then you also in English have the option of the book of my father. You have that option also. In Sanskrit, that preposition is merged into the word itself. The merging of the preposition into the word and the lack of ambiguity around the words helps to create the brevity of the Sanskrit language. The brevity and precision of the Sanskrit language comes from these two qualities that it possesses. That words in themselves are well defined in terms of the relationship with other words. That's one aspect of it. The other one is that the prepositions, since they are merged into the word, the number of words that need to be uttered are much fewer to express meaning or to express, a whole sense. Astu. So I hope that is clear. If anybody has any questions on that, I can take that. Is this clear? Did this make sense? This whiteboard thing?
It's very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you need to do with Sanskrit, so when you are learning the Sanskrit grammar now, what you need to always remember is that what is the code? And therefore I say that if you remember just the ending of it, then you can Sanskritize English as a game and do it as a game. I would highly recommend you do it as a game. So Boyasya Nama Rameshaha, for example. Try to apply that in your daily conversation. Aham, or like, I eat army at 9 or 9A, So you can really play. But if you do that, then it will consolidate the grammatic forms in your head. The vocabulary will come, but the vocabulary, in my understanding, is the secondary aspect of grasping this language. And the more you are applying it in your speech, the more you will hear the logic, and the logic will form itself in your head rather than having to memorize it. Say gachami, khadami, pathami, likhami, vadami will come out by default. So I would say at least, and if you're saying something, at least say 3 times. From a yogic perspective, they say if you say something 3 times, then you start making it more, and making it more embedded in your system, basically. So don't only make a sentence once, make it at least 3 times. And that will help your brain retain it much better. Again, play with it, play with Sanskrit. And Sanskritize all the other languages, for the joke of it, for the fun of it. Astu. So I think with this we should close. I have to devote a little more time to the study of the text. Let me see if I can do that next time. I'll try and spend maybe half an hour, because it'll also be the closing of the thing. So I'll talk about the Vibhaktis and then talk on the grammar aspect of the language, which you would have done. So we look at that more in detail. So those of you who have not seen more than 10, so try and see if you can complete 15. And this is one last thing I want to say is that because this course is about introduction to basic spoken Sanskrit, if you just put it on and listen to it, you should be able to follow along. The visuals is there as an aid, but the primary teaching is really an auditory one. So see if you can just switch it on whenever you have the time, just put it on. Some words will go in paryaptam, samskara bhavati. And with Sanskrit, the good news, and that's where, if people are a little from the older generation and you're apprehensive about how do you memorize so much, what I would say is just memorize one word in one sentence that sticks in your brain. And that's the end. That's all you need to do. Because once you know one word ending with akara in the Shashti Vibhakti is Janakasya, and you can just remember Mama Janakasya Nama. Just remember that sentence. Enough. The rest of your, in 10,000 years, if there is a word that comes with akara ending, it will have the same form. So there is a constant learning that is required. There are many forms, so those need to be learned, and those there's a logic, there is many things. So if you see patterns, it's easier. So I would say to consolidate it, remember one sentence that strikes you. So with the Shashti, it's great to remember your family members' names. Janakasya Nama, Ambayaha Nama, Putriyaha Nama, Mitrasya Nama. 4. That's it. You've got it. Then for the Saptami, so Ambayaha was for the Shashti and Putriyaha. So if you know one, you know the other as well. And the other, and the Napunsakalinga is like the Pullinga. So it's very simple. The other one is the Saptami, which is in or on. So you say, for example, Mama Grihe, Kim, Griham, neuter word, Grihe, or Grihe Kaha Kaha Asti. So Grihe Janaka Asti, Grihe Amba Asti, for example. Parivaraha is the masculine equivalent. Parivare Kaha Kaha Asti, you will remember. Okay. Then the one for Akara, I would say you remember Agra. Agrayam Taj Mahal Asti. Okay, Agrayam. Taj Mahal Kutra Asti, Agrayam. And do the actions. I always say do the actions. They will really help it stick better. So Agrayam Taj Mahal Asti. And for the E, because I'm from Pondicherry, Pondicheryam or Dehliam. Dehliam kim asti, Sansad Bhavanam asti. Okay, Dehliam, Pondicheryam, Sri Aurobindo Ashrama asti. Iti. Okay, so simple things like that, if you can, simple sentence, just one of each is all you need to remember. And that also, for 4 forms, you just need to remember 2. So in terms of extent of memorization, it's like really the minimum you can ask for. So at least make sentences, at least apply it in different contexts, and it will be easy for you. So with this, let's end. So let's do the Om, this Om Lokah Samastah Sukhino Bhavantu. Astu. And then I'll take the questions. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bahu dhanyavadaha. If there's any prashna, I can take that maybe for